Got the medics safely across. Candle and all staff accounted for. No casualties.
We're off to a good start, Agent.
What's going on, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome back to another episode of MavAttack. Now the Division is finally on us, and I'm so happy to be playing it now. If you're a subscriber to the YouTube channel, then you've probably seen the gameplay video that I put out, which are literally my first impressions, but this video is about 9 or 10 hours into the beta, and my thoughts, opinions, impressions, whatever. So let's start with the graphics. Now the graphics have always been very controversial. You know, they started off really blown the fuck up, because that's how Ubisoft does their games. They blow their graphics up way out of proportions that we've ever seen, and then once we get the game, it's like, yeah. I had to dumb the graphics down to a point where I could get a stable frame rate, so I was playing on high and getting a stable 60, 55 frames per second. But it looks decent, you know, it looks good. I mean, from the puddles in the streets to the trash piles hanging around to, you know, the physics of the window glass and everything, you shoot the glass fall. It's just what you would expect a next generation game to look like. There's nothing impressive there. Moving on from that, the gameplay. Now, if you don't know what the Division is, check the description of this video for a little detailed description of the game, but the gameplay feels pretty decent. You can go from in and out of cover very seamlessly because this is a third-person cover-based shooter. Just the movements, the gunplay, everything just feels right. Now, my big qualms with this are that it is a role-playing game. It is a RPG, light MMO RPG, so it's conflicting, and I will explain that in a little bit. But overall, so far, the gameplay mechanics feel great. Getting in and out of cover is awesome. Vaulting over things is great. The gunplay, switching weapons. Now, I played on the Xbox One controller for my PC experience, so everything was there, convenient. You know, I never really forgot anything, except for the consumables. I just didn't give a fuck about the consumables, but everything felt right as far as the gameplay goes for a third-person Tom Clancy game. Now, like I said, my issue is it's a role-playing game. It doesn't work out too well, because you expect this game to be a Tom Clancy game, whereas an action shooter, you expect enemies to go down, you expect more action, you expect a lot to be going on, and when you get into the game and you start shooting enemies and you start getting into the feel of this combat, it's this rugged Tom Clancy vibe mixed in with a action role-playing game element. So it's conflicting and it clashes between, you know, the enemies taking loads and loads of bullets to kill, for example. That takes you out of the immersion of the game, and, you know, with several other things with different archetypes of enemies. Some enemies will just blindly run at you with baseball bats while you're shooting at them. A lot of stuff doesn't make sense, and for this type of setting, this type of genre to mix with the light MMORPG aspect, it just feels weird. It just doesn't really work that well. Now, moving on from gameplay and graphics, the game is fun to play with friends. It's very fun to squad up, go into the missions together, go do random events together, or even head into the game's dedicated PvP zone, the Dark Zone, which is pretty much a open area survival game mode where you gotta get loot with your friends and you gotta survive to get the extraction, but other people can become rogue agents and kill you and steal your team's loot. It gets pretty crazy, and I think that's really where this game shines, is the Dark Zone. It's a pretty cool zone to go in with your friends, but the game is good with friends, right? That's to be said about damn near every fucking game that comes out. The problem is the game needs to last on its own as a single player thing, and then enhance the experience with friends together. But the truth is, the single player, for me at least, didn't capture me like that. The difference between playing with friends and playing by myself was night and day. With friends, it's a blast. You want to run around together, you want to explore things together, you guys want to support each other in firefights. Solo, it's just kind of like you're shooting things. It's a shooting gallery. You run from building to building. It's boring. It's a boring experience. So it needs to be able to hold its own on a single player level. And I just don't feel like this game so far does that. A few things that we didn't get to see in the beta that I'm looking forward to seeing once the full game comes out are things like crafting. You can get different materials in the environment, in the world, electronics, cloth scraps, things like that. And so you can use those to craft certain items. Now, what these items are, I have no idea, but the fact that there is a crafting system in the game just lets me know that there's a little bit more customizing and a little bit more grinding to get gear, to, you know, more like RPG sense. You know, everything connects because it is a RPG with a Tom Clancy skin. Beta zone boundaries, I noticed that the boundaries, you can see more of the map. There's gonna be way more to the map outside of these boundaries. You know, you see like Times Square being advertised and all these different places in Manhattan and New York. So you just gotta wonder, you know, how many zones, how big is this open world going to be outside of what we got to play in the beta? So it's massive. It's massive, and they're not just saying it's massive. It's a massive open world. There's tons to explore, just even within the beta zone that I got to play. And now just a few negatives. I mean, the game, for some reason, it crashed on numerous fucking occasions for me. Like, I'm in the middle of a Dark Zone playing, when all of a sudden, There's also a few game bugs I ran into, you know, enemies falling through the map, clipping, but, you know, I kind of just expect bugs to be in there because games can't be perfect and it's a beta. And then also, consumables, I forgot to use them. You get skills in the game, which I remember to use the skills all the time, but the consumables was just like a second thought. I was just like, oh, I forgot I have those. Let me try to use them once the fucking battle is over. But these were just my brief thoughts and opinions on the, 9-10 hours I did end up playing. It's going to be a cool game. It's going to be a fun game, but I can see after a while it becoming very boring, very grindy. People will have a tough time with it. And yes, you will hear tons of comparisons to Destiny. And yes, while it has very, very similar elements to Destiny, it is a different game entirely, but I could definitely see it getting boring after a while for a lot of people that are looking for a very in-depth experience. This is a light MMO RPG with a Tom Clancy skin, so if you're with it, I'm with it. And at the end of the day, that's the most important thing. If you love light MMO RPG games, this is gonna be your game. But if you're looking for another Splinter Cell game, Rainbow Six, if you're looking for a fucking Ghost Recon game, you're not gonna get that. You're going to get something more similar to the Destiny format than Ghost Recon Wildlands, for example, or what we're seeing of that at least. So, and also thanks to your guys' donations, I was able to purchase the game. So round of applause to everyone that has been donating to the Mav movement. You guys don't know how much that helps me, so thank you guys all so very much. So be on the lookout for a review coming for Tom Clancy's The Division once the game releases in March, I believe. But with all that being said, thank you guys all so much for watching this episode of MavAttack. If you enjoyed this episode, attack that like button. 10K Q&A coming in the next few days, if not tomorrow. I will see you guys all on the next episode of MavAttack. More fuck. 'To another episode of MavAttack, The Division. Yeah, bish. 'To another episode of MavAttack. Ow. 'To another episode of MavAttack, The Division. The Division beta is upon us.